Okay. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the ability of ffmpeg to record the desktop to MP4. That would be to demonstrate any kind of apps, or there's any number of things you want to record off your desktop. So this gives me the opportunity to demonstrate ffmpeg. The version that I'm using is version 6.1.1 from 2023. That's because I have a Windows 7 64-bit 2-core 4-thread. So there is some configuring you need to do. If you want to use the command line, you can, but I use batch files. So I can easily determine what quality at a glance, what dimensions, what microphone I'm using, if I'm using no audio, if I'm just recording the dimensions of a actual program that's running and nothing else. It just captures like a window. Or the other batch file here with the dashes and the X and the dashes, that is for ffsize, and I will get to that right now. ffsize, hopefully it will be up. Basically, if you've got something you want to record, and you'll see my actions down here in this little box. So I'm holding down the left button. So what this does is it captures the coordinates and the size of this box. So let's say if I wanted to record this video of news, basically I would kind of get it close and use the arrows to fine adjust the box there. I can drag this box, but I'm not going to do that for right now. I'm going to show you how to use ffsize dimension on the 8s. So basically this is set to only add 8 pixels every step. So you want these values to be the same. And the reason for that is if you have an odd dimension, a lot of video editors will not recognize it. It's best to be divided by 8. So try to keep these numbers the same. So I'm just going to expand this by using the shift and right. That moves 8 pixels every time I use the arrows. So we're going to get it close here, and then just use the arrows to kind of maybe center it, because I want to keep it at 8. So these numbers are the same. You're ready to go. It's got the dimensions where the corner is. Basically, you do a right click. Of course, you can minimize, make this on top all the time, change the color, copy the dimensions to clipboard, but you basically hit ffmpeg capture screen and it would be capturing it. I'm not going to do that right now. So the wheel mouse will kind of let you peek underneath to see how close you got the capture, and it's as easy as right click and select, and then it will the screen like this one will pop up, and of course you'll have to move this out of the way. This will minimize, and you'll have to move this out of the way. So it's as easy as that for ffmpeg. Now, some of the drawbacks to recording the screen like this is that if you first looked at the video, it didn't start out as 30 frames a second right away. So this is automatically going to be a variable frame rate MP4. So you can stream it, like you could directly send this to YouTube or any streaming platform, and it should be just fine. It should stream just fine. But if you're using this MP4 that I'm creating right here, if you're using it in any kind of video editor, it's going to need to be a consistent frame rate. So probably the editor will convert it on its own. But the problem I had with it doing that was the file size was 28 gig. Of like a 200 meg program. So it made everything iframes, and it was just huge. So I recommend my other program is ffmpeg Ultimate Tool. So let's just put in a MP4 here. So let me minimize these. So what this does is it's a real easy way. This is up on Softpedia right now. Basically, since it's a variable frame rate, but also the audio is off. Because it can't quite sync because the video records at a different rate than the audio. So there's two things. There's two things that you need to know if you're going to be using ffmpeg. The audio offset is going to need to be checked. So you could use a Vidimux. Basically, you would put it in there, and if you have anything you can go off of, like if someone's talking, probably on recording your screen, you probably won't be able to do that. But if you record something off the internet, with people's lips moving, you can use a Vidimux to sync up the audio, put in a negative value until you get the lips to sync with the audio. So once you get that number, you can use that number in audio offset. So I know it's off a negative 800 milliseconds. And ffmpeg does a little bit different. It's in a positive. So a Vidimux will be negative, and this would be positive. So I know it's 8, and then I would go ahead and hit run. So basically what that would do is sync up the audio. And then after that, you want the variable frame rate encoded to a consistent frame rate. So you would put in, I usually use 240 for the GOP size, group of pictures, and then 30 frames. And basically all the instructions and advice is in this box. It'll tell you what the constant rate factor is, scene cut, adaptive iframes, frames per second, if you want to change it. So basically what this ffmpeg would do is basically either add or delete frame or drop frames. Most of the time it would add. So it is exactly the frame rate that you specify here. And then that's ready to go. Once it re-encodes, it'll probably be a smaller file size, and it's ready to edit in Shotcut or any video editor. So those are the two big things if you're recording from your desktop that you need to know. So check out my video or my 2 different programs. They're free, so check those out. So that does it for the screen record, the ffsize. That'll get you to record really easy if you're recording something off the web. A lot of times I use presidential debates. I'll record so I can watch it later. So as I said earlier, have your command files basically descriptive. So you know what devices you're using, what dimensions you're using. That brings me to Screen Markers. Is a wonderful program. Let me change this. So let's say we wanted to have some screen markers. So if you just wanted a small recording, you can adjust the as you can see here, it's going out of the line. So okay, I want to show a certain part of this and demonstrate. You can demonstrate it, or actually have the dialog box in visible, the areas that you want to demonstrate. So wonderful program. Let me turn it back to this program that I'm doing here. So let's get to the inner workings. I've basically went through the pros and cons of when you're recording those two, the audio offset and the variable frame rate. So let's get into the actual batch file. So the ffsize, it has a ready-made default, I should say, batch file here that does checks. It has a naming scheme, and then all your true settings here of the recording. You can change that. It shouldn't be very difficult to keep this all looking really nice. If you want to make a duplicate of this command, and so that way you can use like different mics, no audio, stereo mix only. So different dimensions if you want different dimensions. Then of course individual dialog box, say like if I wanted to record maybe this notepad. So I would have to get the title of this, and let's go ahead and put that in the editor. So you can see how I was able to record this. I think here it is, title. So that has to be exactly, the name has to be exactly right, but it would only record the dimensions wherever this was placed, the notepad. Or in this case, this is a different program, but basically you get my meaning. It basically gets the coordinates for you. So not all circumstances, require or need just the dialog box that you want, but there's the capability there. Most of the time you want a little bit of what's going on so you can demonstrate properly. So I've got different stereo settings. Go into the right or the taskbar and go to recording devices. And this will be important to get this right. And that leads me to my other batch file, list devices. Here's a look at the command line, basically I have it to, well, let me just run it. You will need to get that batch file because you'll need to know the exact name of your devices. So what this does is it runs ffmpeg and gets all the devices that are available for you to use in ffmpeg screen capture. So here I'm using the mic, so I would copy this whole thing with the quotes, and that's what I would put into my batch file. So let me, yeah, here we go. So you will notice that this is not the same because this is a test. So actually, let's pull up what I actually used to start this recording right here. So let's bring this up. So you'll notice right here for the audio line or audio is the Samsung mic, and it has to be exactly like that. So yeah, once you get that, you'll have settings, maybe thread queue size, probe size. You might have to adjust to make the frames per second be steady at 30 frames. Now, depending on your computer, you could have 90 frames a second, and there'd be a lot of drop frames. So you'll just have to tinker around, maybe do some Google searches to find out what would be a good setting. Although I do have some notes for some presets and that kind of thing, just some general notes on what to do and what not to do. So otherwise, you're on your own as far as finding the settings for ffmpeg. Just as long as they're over your frame rate, I guess, you can always adjust. And that would be, of course, my ffmpeg UT to change the variable frame rate or to a constant frame rate. So this gives you a look at how complex you want to get. Once you get the complexities figured out, just save them as an individual command file, and you should be good to go. Once you set each one for each computer, I have 3 computers. Each one of these is kind of different, configured different. I still have the naming scheme I use, but if one's a slower computer, it'll have different settings. I have 2 different versions. I have an easy version here where you can just edit it along the side. These carets are just pushes the text to the next line, but it recognizes that this is one line. I've got a naming scheme, so it uses today's date and time. It initially makes this MP4 file, a temp encoded file. And when it gets all done, you hit, like, when this video is done, I'll hit the small Q key, and that will stop this video. So once you do that, it will continue with the batch file, and it will say, okay, I want to take this temp, and it will say, okay, if it exists, it will rename that temp MP4 with today's date, today's time, and record ffmpeg recording.mp4. Now you can change that if you like to something, but I would recommend keeping the date and time in there because it needs to have a different file name for each one. So you could just, like what I'm doing is once I mess up, I'll cancel and I'll just double click to this one to start recording again, so I don't lose my thoughts. And don't worry about overriding the existing recording, because I might want to use maybe sections of that later on. So this is like a continuous, different file name each time. And then I have the start time and end time. So when this is all done, it'll tell you basically how long your video ran. Okay, there's some checks to make sure the ffmpeg exists. In the environmental table, that's my scheme. It's easy to just point to the ffmpeg that I want to use through the environmental table. That's how this works. It just has the path here, and it points to the ffmpeg version that you want. So because you have probably many ffmpegs on your computer, but this lets you specify which one to use. So I should get into the metadata. If you do any changes, I would make sure they were on the metadata comment section. As you can see here, there's some things that need to be changed. It's not exactly correct. But basically what this does, if this was all in this line, basically in the metadata of the MP4, it will show you all your settings. So it's important to have your current settings in the comments in case you want to say, okay, this MP4 I used this thread queue size, and it just tells you everything about what created this MP4. That's a good good thing to have in your MP4, because if you use media info, which my ffmpeg UT does, it will actually have the encoder settings beyond the comments here. It has its own settings of what was set to make the video, and you can use media info to get that. So there is basically a lot of maybe research you need to do for the settings, but otherwise it's all here in a batch file. I don't know how much easier I can make it get, but stay tuned. I hope this has convinced you that recording your desktop using ffmpeg is useful. It's been really useful to me, especially I just did a video with, actually it doesn't have the right name here, but a audio editor that I just needed to, as I was doing a Samsung mic review, basically I needed the output of the wave. So post-production, what I did was I put the audio editor, just captured the dimensions of the audio editor, actually playing my audio using this mic, and then I used that MP4 and set it inside another video, like picture in picture. So that's another good thing to do. You can have your desktop or parts of a program on top of another video. So if you had yourself being videoed, you can actually just take a snippet or the whole video or the whole audio editor running and have it like in the corner, resize it. So it really makes the whole experience. You're not just talking about it, you're actually showing what's happening, and you don't need to have it bogging down your computer. If you have all these different programs you're running, it's almost impossible. So doing stuff post-production is a good option, and that's what ffmpeg is really good at too. Just taking the dimensions of your program, as small as it is. Make sure it's by the eighths though. You might have to do some resizing. This ffmpeg can also crop. I haven't got into that yet. I just wanted to basically emphasize how easy it is. Once you get the settings, just double click and you're off to recording. My ffsize, which basically does the hard work of the location and then record. So that's easy. And then of course the ffmpeg ultimate tool that will make your video fit any video editor. You can extract audio with this to any format. So this is very easy to use. It has all the things you need to switch containers, fix video container, clear out the subtitles and metadata, convert like an AVI to an MP4. There's audio conversions from different audios. Some audio don't work with Android devices, so you can convert that. There's filters for gain and a limiter to adjust so your mic doesn't go over a certain level. So really check out my ffmpeg ultimate tool. So I hope this also uses ffmpeg, if you didn't get it from the name of the program. So there's so much ffmpeg can do. I've just really scratched the surface and really using it pretty good now the last month of 2024 of July. So I hope these programs help you do the projects that you want to do, and keep coming back to this channel for more great videos. So now I'm going to exit the video, and I'm going to hit the small Q key and have a good one, everyone. Hope this has helped. Catch you next time.